losers. Call that for a reason.
Excuse me, I'm not peeing. I'm just pouring some coffee.
He's marking his territory.
Welcome to the edge of nowhere. Everybody, and welcome to this 24th episode of the Monster Lore Tour Paranormal Deep Dives from the Edge of Nowhere podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Carr, here along with my co-host in the Squidward to my SpongeBob, Mr. Matt O0, a.k.a. the Moz. How we doing today, Moz?
I'm trying to do my Squidward accent. I'll have to work on that. I'm all right, I don't know. He's got a nasal thing going on. I think you are SpongeBob because he's definitely high.
Oh, yeah, like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
So I guess I'm going to have to take Squidward for the team here.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And you are kind of starfishy.
No, that's Patrick.
Oh, that's Patrick. Oh, Squidward is...
the cephalopod. The Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Bone would be very displeased with my choice of being Squidward today. So that's all right. He's kind of the Bert, and we decided there's no Berts in our crew.
There are no Berts here, that's right.
Yeah. So maybe it's apologies. The SpongeBob to my Patrick is actually, yes, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We figured it out. Let's move on. We always do, man.
Am I going to get in trouble for not knowing the difference on the SpongeBob characters?
No, because it's a cartoon, and if you don't have kids, it's okay. Like there's ones that we were like, oh my god, I didn't get that philosopher right, and you're mad. Mm-hmm. Patrick or Squidward, this is fucking comedy.
Fair enough.
My opinion.
All right. Anyway, let's get into. Actually, we usually do our old business here, but we're coming off a compilation episode and an interview episode, so we don't actually really have any old business to do, which is nice.
Woohoo!
So we'll skip that for now. Just throw in, please take a moment to hit all those happy fun buttons on whatever platform you're on, like, subscribe, share, all that. If you have a minute, leave us a rating and a review. That helps not only
a raving review,
us know what we're doing and how you think of it, but also with the algorithms. So if you have a minute, please help us out with that.
If you have an AI bot that could give us,
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That could help.
There you go. Write us
or hinder.
Have it write us like 1,000 reviews. That helps even more.
Yeah.
But this is a Moz episode, our first Moz episode in a little bit, actually. So I'm going to pass it right on over to you, Moz.
Yeah, I've been on hiatus since the Christmas special. I had to sit in the corner for a while.
It was a lot of work, and yeah, you were kind of banned from the lead for a little bit there, I think.
But you gave me some homework for a February one, so I'm going to do Leap Day. So I'm back in the
true.
Back in the saddle.
We have a Leap Day special.
Yeah,
it's going to be more of a side traily length, I think. Right, it's not a full episode length, but it's going to be a midweek for us. Release on actual February 29th to celebrate the leap year.
Yep. Well, timeout is over, so I'm good.
All right, so what are we doing today, though, Moz?
Well, today, the last two of my Shapeshifter series was set in the Arctic, or the subarctic, I would say. If you haven't listened, you might be a little lost, but then again, this creature we're going to discuss today likes to confound, confuse, and disorient its victims, so you're actually well prepared by being confused and not prepared. So this should be good for us.
Perfect.
And you and everyone, really.
Great place for everyone to start.
Yeah. So many entities are looking to lure you into the water and drown you, from the Selkies to the Kelpies to the Undines to the more Slavic Rusalkas to the Knock of Estonian folklore, the Lorelei of the Rhine, if you've heard of them. They're just another siren that's going to like lure you to a watery grave. But most are not willing to save you. Some will, but usually just for nookie purposes. Like there's the Voidanoy, and this is that Russian frog.
Did you just say the Avoid the Noid?
Avoid the Noid, which is the pizza creature
Yeah.
that used to be. That was a long time ago. I mean, that's even an old reference probably for us. At least commercials. Commercials age like quicker, so this is going back.
Oh, yeah, they're gone in a year kind of thing.
But there's also the Mamadaloy of Trinidad, which is a snake-charming Therian. There's the Vumurt of the Vodiac mythology, ghost of the water, and others that will enslave you. But today, this thing does something really different. It steals your soul. It saves you, but at a very, very costly price.
Like making a deal with the devil kind of thing?
Well, you become one of them, and then
Oh.
you lose your soul. So,
Ooh.
yeah. So today's topic is the Kushtaka, if you haven't figured that out. And that is something oft described as, well, we'll get into it here. But it warrants a deeper dive for those who dare, but diving deep into these waters seems like a terrible idea, because there's these otter creatures that will steal your soul. So
You
it's
become
better to
one-
be sitting where you're at now talking about it.
It's very Borgy. They assimilate you and take your soul.
Yeah. If a giant otter monster drowned you or a loved one, you may be eligible for a cash reward.
But not from us. We have no money.
Yeah, it's true. We don't, yeah. Well, yeah. Sometimes to understand the otter, you must listen to the otter and his evil agenda. Bluto's right. Psychotic. But absolutely right. We got to take these bastards. Now, we could do it with conventional weapons, but that could take years and cost millions of lives. No, I think we have to go all out. I think that this situation absolutely requires a really futile and stupid gesture be done on somebody's part. That's from,
Animal House.
That's from Otter. Yeah.
Oh, Otter and Animal
Yeah, I
House.
just want to get us into the mood.
I can't wait to background music that.
But there's a real reason I'm doing that. Because you know what Bluto did on Pledge Week? All the newbies got their totem names: Weasel, Flounder, Mothball. They got their assigned yak by the head Koryak, the Enelon. Bluto.
Imagine having a mothball for your yak. That's bad.
Yeah, well, Bluto.
One of them was Otter, though, so was he?
Well, Otter was another year. This was the Pledge Week, guys. This was the Flounder era.
Oh,
So
I
it's
know,
all-
but the fact that one of them's named Otter, it does make it quite fitting.
Yeah. My favorite from that whole genre was my friend Maggot in college. Actually, after we graduated and ran him at like a homecoming, we run back into him. He said, "No, you must now refer to me as Fly." Good job, Maggot.
Was he a white guy?
He was a white guy.
So he was pretty fly for a white guy?
He's pretty fly for a white guy.
All right.
But Jeff Goldblum or David Hedison? There's your fly question.
Oh, yeah.
Well, which? You have to choose.
Oh, Jeff Goldblum.
You got to go with original sources.
Nah, Jeff Goldblum's
Vincent
too weird.
Price.
man.
Go back to the Vincent Price version and at least watch it. No, you're right.
Oh, I've seen that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least you're with me on this.
Yeah.
Okay. We can return to the fly, but that's also with Vincent Price. But most describe the Kushtaka as being a half otter, half humanoid type creature. We find sightings today from the same region that the folklore originated, mainly from the Tlingit, Tsimshian, and Haida tribes of Alaska, primarily along the southeastern coastal strip of the state. But these tales or similar ones range from east of Anchorage through southern Alaska to the Pacific Northwest. So that's the area we're talking
So
about.
all down the coast.
Yeah, east of Culver Country, if you're
Right.
going to put it in that framework. But today we'll be exploring the possibility of this creature crossing the land bridge from Asia to the Americas, as well as the rest of the otter mythos. And you're in for a treat. And if your kayak tips over next year, Jeremy, some otters are in for a treat, apparently.
Oh, I'll take him down with me, no doubt.
That's not the way it works. That's you're in their territory now. We're going to find that out, what your chances are as we move on here.
Actually, I'm probably not going to do the kayaking next time. I'm going to do some inland stuff next time.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm excited for you and a little frightened, but we'll see what happens. But also as part of the apology, which we always do here, there are no good otter cartoon characters, so I was forced to do Angry Beaver episodes to prep for this one, which I think is otter adjacent. So I think, I did the best I could.
Not
no
really,
cartoon otter jokes is what I'm saying.
No cartoon otters, huh?
I couldn't find one with angry beavers, which is, again, if it's a similar creature. I mean, we got to, So
I did see sea otters while I was up there, just outside of Resurrection Bay.
Nice.
But they seemed quite normal.
Okay. Well, good for you. That's a good thing for you. So you passed, seemingly without injury. So good job.
Yeah.
We'll see next time. Now that you know it and you're going to be afraid of them, the fear is going to be like, oh, he's afraid of us. And then they're going to come.
Come on, dude. You know who you're talking to. I'm not scared of these things anymore.
All right. Well, I am. So let's start there. But the largest known species from the fossil record is the Enhydrodon omoenensis, Omoensis, Africa and Eurasian. Fossil record suggests the thing was about 440 pounds, the size of a lion. Another giant otter that lived around 6 million years ago is the Siamogale melutra, derived from the Latin melis for badger and lutra for otter, described as a wolf-sized otter. That's a big otter.
A lion-sized otter, even.
Yes.
That's huge.
That's the fossil record, though. That's the fossil. The biggest ones today, and you can check this on Wiki. I'm not going to go through all the glorious Latin today. You can read that for yourself. But the globally successful group of predators reaching up to 1.8 meters, 5 feet 11 inches. That's a big otter even for today.
That's full-on human-sized.
Yeah, well, they're smaller and sleeker. These lion-sized ones would be, much, much beefier creatures. But still, when you're talking about a 6 foot, you're still getting somewhere between what we're used to and a lion.
Right.
Atypical of mustelids, the giant otter is a social species with family groups typically supporting 3 to 8 members. The groups are centered on a dominant breeding pair and extremely cohesive and cooperative. That is from Wikipedia. Again, the largest known species of otter living today is found in South America and is nearly 6 feet in length. I tried to find where the biggest ones in North America were, because that's what we're talking about today in Alaska, and we're talking about a creature that sometimes seems Bigfoot size and sometimes seems much smaller, and it's supposed to derive from an otter. So what do we see actually out there? The first comes from the Key West Citizen, 1938, and it was a 4-foot otter, not that impressive. This is just kind of reviewing newspapers, doing like a search. The one you sent me, actually, for, searching.
Oh, the newspaper archive thing.
Yeah. Second place winner was Cameron County, Pennsylvania. It's the Cameron County Press, 1910. Hit the 5-foot mark. And the winner kind of edged over the 5-foot mark from Wilmington, Delaware, the Evening Journal, 1896. Found another one, like hunters usually out there finding these things.
Recently they found otters that were over 5 feet long?
1896. So that's recent geologically.
Geologically, evolutionarily, that's really recent.
Yep. And, we have not seen any of those 6-foot ones, but we found things that are topping 5 feet on this continent, essentially.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. See, you're going to be a little scared when you see that little critter on the side.
Yeah, if they had been 5 feet long, I would have maybe felt a little different about those things.
There you go. So no surprise the cryptid otter accounts get much larger, as we'll see in the Creature Feature Otter Roll Call coming soon from Chile, Ireland, Mexico, Japan, and of course Alaska, which is their home world. So what do you know of the Kushtaka germ?
Not all that much. I know a little bit from the stuff you sent me to do my readings today.
Dang, that's very recent. How far in the geological records does your brain understand the Kushtaka then?
Oh, I'm always thinking forward. See, that's why we're a team. I think forward, you think back.
Yeah, okay.
And in that, we cover the entire expanse of time.
Okay,
this is why we need a podcast.
Wow. That just sounds like bullshit to me. Okay.
I'm a philosopher, dude. I have a PhD in bullshit.
I know you do. But it's a 7 to 8 foot tall otter-human hybrid, so it gets great gas mileage. But no, the folklore of these related tribes claim these otters can shapeshift into people, is what's happening. Somewhere between otter and people is the general main thing. Encounters vary from small otter-sized creatures to Bigfoot-sized Ottermen, and kind of everything in between. And the most common mimicry tactic, because they also want to lure you into the water and drown you, or they're saving you. You're drowning and lost in the woods, and they make it worse, but then save you, kind of thing. What would be the mimic tactic that you would guess of just what generally we run across?
A lot of it's baby crying.
Yes.
Well, yeah, baby crying.
And
women screaming.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Calling for help, or like your mom's voice.
Yeah. Well, they don't. I don't know if they do that per se, but women and babies. So they make these sounds that things in distress.
Right. Make it sound like somebody weak is in distress, kind of thing.
Exactly. So I'm going to have your first reading here. If you can read our first reading today, it's from Demon Hunter's Compendium, and this is just an overview of the Kushtaka.
In addition to its shape-shifting powers, the Kushtaka is possessed of supernatural strength, speed, and agility in the water, and endurance. The creature is able to create illusions that enable it to deceive its victims and entice them into coming close enough for the Kushtaka to strike. It is able to appear and disappear at will, communicate telepathically, and it can allegedly manipulate time and space. The creature is able to survive in freezing conditions that would kill a person outright, and it can hold its breath underwater for long periods. Exactly how long is unknown.
And from the Demon Hunter's Compendium. I can hold my breath, Jeremy, for a very long time. What movie? Let's start that again. I can hold my breath for a very long time.
That was,
what movie? Leslie Nielsen, Creepshow. We keep bringing Creepshow back.
Creepshow.
It was Leslie Nielsen being buried up to his head.
For a very
long time.
If you had said it right, like that, I would have known.
Well, I was doing the Leslie Nielsen, not the creepy entity drowning him. But
okay.
Anyway, here's how a Kushtaka encounter for the Tlingit might go down. Picture this, if you will, in your best Serling voice. You're strolling through the woods to get away from your Shoma wife, through that end for you, back at the old ice cave. You suddenly slip on a banana peel. You look down at the banana peel lying in the snow, and you're like, that was random. But now you've twisted your ankle. A group of people who look like your kinsmen suddenly rush onto the scene, but you get the feeling something isn't quite right. They help you, but it seems like they're leading you into the wrong direction, deeper into the wilds. The closer you look at these people, the more they start to look like otters. When they reach their village, you are foolish enough to partake in the morsel of banana bread they hand you, and your fate is sealed.
Because you can't eat or you can't leave.
You know, I didn't find that too much there, but yes, I think there was one guy. Yeah, there's one that we're going to get to that seems to be one of the lore, where again, like the fairies, if you partake in the food, that can be a bad deal. But there's an alternate ending to this, because there's two main types of encounters. These things show up and just... The other one is they just show up and eat you. They tear you limb from limb and eat you. You're either brought to the village to be turned into one of these things, or they eat you. So that's the two scenarios most discussed.
I'm probably jumping ahead on maybe just throwing you off, but is there anything on what makes them want to turn you into one of them instead of just eating you?
Well, I think it's a really interesting question, because are you failing or are you passing the initiative, right?
Yeah.
But from a spiritual perspective, if you can be turned into one, you're losing your soul. If they just eat you, maybe you're not losing your soul. Maybe you're... So it's actually a really tough ontological question. I don't know.
It reminds me of the vampire thing, where sometimes they just drain their victims dead, but once in a while they turn them into a vampire.
Well, for this, the otters are trying to reestablish their community, so they are trying to keep up their pool of peeps.
So
there's a whole village. There's supposedly a portal near, and we're going to get into this, near where the Tlingit or tribe is from. It's supposed to be a portal to this underground area where these otters are, and they're always trying to keep up their numbers. But,
so it's more a procreative thing almost.
Yeah, but you're right, though. What would be passing or failing? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a deep question. We're going to get actually very deep with this, but that's deeper than we might even be getting. So We'll have to, maybe by the end of this.
I like going deep.
By the end of this, we'll maybe figure this out. And hopefully.
I go deep like Deion Sanders, man.
There you go. But the Tlingit don't want to talk about the Kushtaka, which is just like the Navajo skin
walker
and countless other entities. They don't want to talk about these things. They think that's just bad mojo, and the thing can hear you, and it's going to come for you. This is one of those. And this from oddityhive.com, and it's your second reading today.
I like when you keep me busy. One local fisherman recalls an eerie experience he had while out on his boat near Sitka, Alaska. He heard what sounded like a child crying out in distress. Alarmed, he followed the noise, only to see an otter standing upright on its hind legs, staring directly at him before plunging into the water. In another case, a hiker in British Columbia reported hearing what sounded like a woman screaming. Following the noise, the hiker came upon an otter near a stream. Oddly, the otter stood up, looked him in the eye, and let out a sound eerily similar to a human laugh before diving into the water. The number of such encounters has been increasing in the past decade, especially among those venturing into remote areas around rivers, forests, and lakes in the Pacific Northwest. Local residents have even reported seeing groups of otters exhibiting abnormal, almost strategic behavior, as if communicating with each other for a common purpose.
It's funny how the otter has adopted that ability and humans have lost it.
Yeah.
But that's from oddityhive.com. And again, we're going to talk more and more about how the otters seem very human-like and they do work together. And that's kind of where some of this lore might come from the Scully Muggle angle, which we'll get to. But their superpowers are, again, to disorient and confuse and to turn you into one of their own if they desire. I found this really cool thesis by R.A. Barazzuol, which illuminates this a little bit. The Kuchta, K-Duhickey-U-C-D-A, the land otter, had the power to transform themselves so that they looked human and to possess or take away the minds of people who succumbed to their dangerous enticements. Symptoms of this possession were dizziness, fainting spells, bleeding at the nose, spontaneous singing, and aberrations in social and psychological behavior. Land otter possession could cause a person's death if not cured by a shaman. And I know what you're thinking.
I spontaneously sing all the time. That's what I was thinking.
Well, the same thing happened to that Ethel Merman character on Airplane, right? It was just started bursting out into show tunes. Yeah, so it happened over Nacho Grande. I'm not even over Nacho Grande. I'll never get over Nacho Grande. But
no one ever will.
No one ever will. But seriously, isn't also interesting about the bleeding nose, which is kind of ties into the UFO abductee kind of thing.
Oh yeah, right.
You know, we've got this cure thing going on. We've got this shamanic angle. We've got this, and the singing is shamanic in and of itself. So,
well, it could be that weird radioactive almost element that some creatures like these seem to come with, the nosebleed and whatnot.
Do you think the Kushtaka is radio? That's Godzilla.
Well, if it's coming through a portal, you never know.
Yeah.
And like with the UFOs, the bodies all seem to be radioactive. There's the black-eyed children. Anyone who has any length of encounter with them seems to get like really severe, rare cancers in a very short period of time after their encounters with them. And
yeah, the Hopkinsville, Kentucky incident with the UFO. I mean, a lot of that stuff. But that gets to be more UFO. But again, Bigfoot ties into UFO. Bigfoot ties into the Kushtaka. It all seems to just tie in different and amazing ways. So I am going to do like a brief otter mythos, which is kind of what I like to do. Little global roll call for strange, otter mythos, and then we'll get into some of the monsters involved. Zoroastrians held ceremonies that honor fallen otters they come across in the wilds, and it is considered a great wrong to kill one. Ainu legend, and that's that island north of Japan again, the otter is why mankind is imperfect today. There's a northern Japanese legend wherein the otter fails as the archetypal messenger between God and man, so that is why mankind is not perfect. He kind of forgets what he's supposed to do and forgets what he's supposed to bring back from the gods, messes the whole thing up. It's a very common across Asia. There's kind of similar myths of the otter kind of screwing this up for mankind and not being the best Prometheus trickster creature.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. He's kind of coyote-ish, maybe?
Yeah, it's definitely got that trickster messenger quality to it.
Yeah.
There's old United Kingdom, which back then was just called Piss Off, by the way. If you look really back in the old English, yeah, they just called the whole place Piss Off.
Wow.
That might not be true, but I feel like it should be.
It sounds good
but
to me.
I know it's true. But there's a legend of an Otter King person from the UK. I have no idea, couldn't find anything else on this. If you know anything, MLT, monsterloretour@gmail.com. Let us know about the Otter King, because my Velma skills failed me on this one.
The Otter King?
Yeah.
Like he was actually king of England or something?
No, I just found one reference to this legend of a guy named the Otter King, and I tried to find out more information, and I failed. So, again, that just was one of those dead ends that if people know more, let us know. Pick it up where I left off. And remember, we talked about all those tribes that believe they were descendants from different animals. Well, the Walla Wallas of the Pacific Northwest, and Bugs Bunny fame, believe they are descendant from the beaver. So in that same region, or at least south of Kushtaka country, I mean considerably south, we still have the whole Yukon, but it's the same idea. We have a similar belief from a similar critter. We also have the Dewando, the Society of Otters. This is a band of women organized to propitiate the otter and other water animals who are supposed to exercise an influence over the health, fortunes, and destinies of men. The otter, which is the chief of the small water animals, including the fish, is a powerful medicine animal. We see that across Canada as well.
Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot of otter in the lore of the First Nations of North America. Yeah.
It's a key yek, as we'll get to. When possessed with the spirit of the otter, the women are said to be unaware of their actions, and sometimes, when they are particularly zealous, the whistle of the otter is heard. This greatly frightens the people, who regard it as a manifestation of the presence of the great medicine otter. The women afterward deny having imitated the otter's call, saying that they were possessed of the otter and had no knowledge of what they did. So we find a whistle, we find an otter, we find a yek, we find this healing, we find a monster. Always finding the same things. It's like a bucket of things you find in the world, and that was from Code of Handsome Lake, Part 2, Field Notes on the Rites and Ceremonies of the Ganio Dai Doohickey I.O. religion, the Society of Otters. That's from sacredtext.com. There's also the Beaver People. According to Brad Steiger, the beaver is a key familiar of shamans of that same area, or at least the Pacific Northwest, and shapeshifting into one is an important part of the Osage shamanic training. This is a quote from Brad Steiger now. In the eyes of the Osage, and perhaps all the tribes of the Northeast, the beavers in their streams were called the Little Wise People. The industrious creatures built their communities of lodges and kept to themselves, and provided a great healing powers whenever the tribes had need for their medicine. For the shamans of many tribes, the beaver serves as a familiar spirit, being that it accompanies them on journeys out of the body. So it's kind of, again, now we got astral projection, and we've got this psychopompy thing going on where it's kind of a guide.
A full-on spirit guide. Like, that's exactly, it's a spirit guide.
And we come across them a lot, and this is, again, this area that they're important critters. That from Werewolf book, The Encyclopedia of Shapeshifting by Brad Steiger. Well, again, as always, we'll have stuff in the show notes. But we found another important yak, a beaver. A beaver. Leave it to beaver. But similarly, we find the Badger People. And what's the appropriate response when I say the Badger People?
I don't like being badgered.
We don't need no stinking Badger People.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So again, Steiger points to the Badger People as being the younger brother to the bear for some of those Native American tribes in the Pacific Northwest. Here's Steiger again. Its evenly marked black and white stripes suggest being that somehow stands between night and day, the darkness and the light. Some medicine priests believe the badger is a perfect emissary to meditate between the world of spirit and the world of humans. Its powerful, compact body also makes the badger an excellent and secure form to receive the spirit of the shape-shifting shaman. So it's a good form. It's a good yak. Gets
There
lots
it is.
of good gas mileage.
The shape-shifting shaman. You just couldn't not go there, could you, Maz?
I wasn't going to say it, but that's from Steiger's Totems, Transformative Powers of Personal Animal Totem. So yes, I was reading that. So yes, I got myself into trouble again. But we also talked about the... Go ahead, you have your arm up.
It is interesting how they're all go-betweens. And
Yeah.
I guess that is the realm of the spirit world in the end.
Yeah.
Between the mortals and the gods lay the spirits, I guess, because
Yeah.
they're all go-betweens like that.
Yep.
It's interesting.
Yeah, South American, there's actually a frog go-between, and because it's always between water and land. We have the owl, which is another popular one, and we're going to, again, get into that during owl month or year or whatever I'm doing with owls.
I think we should do a
It's
full-on
probably
owl
not
month.
appropriate.
I'm going to
Owl
give
month.
Yeah, I'm just going to
In
give you...
podcast term, that's like a decade.
Oh, yeah. It'll
Yeah.
be great.
Okay.
It's like
Owl
Shark,
decade.
Shark Week,
Sounds
but
great.
Owl Month.
Yeah, owl decade.
No, I'm saying just give you a month, like 4 in a row. Just do owls
I'll do owl. Yeah, okay.
for a month.
Sounds good.
Done.
I mean, I need a little more because I have more than 4.
Well, it's not till
topics.
season 2. You got lots of
We
time.
can double up. Like
You
we
got
did for
lots of
Christmas.
time.
The Christmas thing worked out so well when it doubled up. It'll be great.
Oh, yeah. So well, Buzz.
You let me go too long, and then we run into trouble.
We'll see if they even let us put out a Christmas special
Gotta
next
reel me
year.
back in. Reel me back in. But we also talked about the Mid-Awaywan Society of the Ojibwa and our Arctic shapeshifter hunt, wherein the otter is the key medicinal yak for the practice of shamanic medicine, giving us to the, actually it goes back to the great hare, a rabbit therianthrope, is actually Nanabotso, which we talked about. And again, that was his key yak, and that was the main proto-first shaman, or one of them from that area. And the otter became like kind of all that important for medicine, all that important for, I guess it's basically a rabbit with a otter yak. So
Interesting.
I think we talked about that, but
A
that's what it
rabbit
is.
with an otter yak. So
Yeah, that's not a boat, so yeah.
the animals are teaming up. We're in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know if the man actually has anything to do with this at this point, which might be better. So who knows? All right, so that's some of the mythological components to the otter, but I wanted to kind of do a quick creature feature roll call with the otters. I bet you are probably, even you must be surprised that we have an otter. I actually called it an OOUS, Otters of Unusual Size roll call.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised by how big the full-on real-life otters get around
No,
here.
I meant like that there's more monster otters than just the Kushtaka.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that stopped surprising me.
Okay,
And
good.
like
Well, good. You're ready.
during all your shapeshifter shaman stuff, I
Yeah.
realized that these things are endless.
Yeah, and some of them we already talked about, so you're right. Like the Azotl, that one with the prehensile tail, that Aztec one that has...
Oh,
kind
with
of
the hand for the tail?
Yeah, and the reason I mentioned that is some experts posit the Azotl could have existed at one point in the past and is an ancient relative to the otter. In the bestiaries, it is described as a dog-sized otter or water possum. So maybe it's an Aztec version of the Kushtaka. I mean,
Yeah, why not?
it's food for thought.
Evolution's weird.
Or food for Azotl, one or the other. But here's 4 related critters from Teresa Bane's bestiary. That was the 1,600-page one that really most of it were references for the last 400 pages, and I was really kind of disappointed. But and it was also funny about the Teresa Bay bestiary. It didn't have a lot of the ones we've been talking about. So obviously we need a bigger bestiary.
Yeah,
It's just...
because 1,200 pages just ain't enough.
Just isn't going to cut it anymore. But anyway, so here's 4 from her. And it is a wonderful bestiary, by the way. It's the biggest one that I have found, so I was excited. And it's free on, we'll get you check out the show notes. But from Argentina comes the legend of the Yaquaru, Yaquaru. An aquatic monster from Argentinian folklore, the Yaquaru is said to live in freshwater rivers, described as looking very much like an otter, but nearly the size of a bull, and has long shaggy hair, sharp talons, strong tusks, a tapering tail, and a thick but short legs. So that's one that, probably, recent sightings, probably not a lot of, but,
Right.
We also have the Teehooltsoodi, Teehooltsoodi, a gigantic smooth-furred otter or lake monster from Navajo folklore. It's the king of the ocean, was described as being very powerful and having buffalo horns upon its head, one tail, and involving the Teehooltsoodi. His son is kidnapped, and in his grief, his tears cause a great flood. So this is a very mythological one. This is going back in Navajo. But the Navajo have a giant otter mythos.
Oh, a giant horned otter.
A horned lake monster otter mythos.
That's scary.
Exactly. We also have the Wishpooshi, Wishpooshi, a gigantic beaver from the Nez Perce folklore. The clawed Wishpooshi lives in the lakes of Washington, USA. According to the folklore, it did not want anyone or anything catching the fish in its lake, so it drove off anyone that would try to fish there. So
there you go. Yeah. It's the guardian spirit again.
Exactly. We also have the Antukai, Antukai. This is clearly more mythical again, or even more mythical than what we've been talking about. In the folklore of the Kalapaya Indians of Oregon, it's a giant otter-like creature that was once a bear that turned into an otter through sorcery. So,
through sorcery, though.
Yeah. So we have these things that popped up in the past, and that's also where angry beavers come from, that same area. They do. I think they're from that area. They had the trees look very like from that area.
Yeah.
So we also have the Kawasu. You might have heard of this one. I think we talked about this one.
Sounds familiar.
No, the familiar would be the otter. Yeah, I'm just testing. A Japanese otter yokai. It's a shapeshifter that prefers the form of a beautiful woman, and like in Alaska, it's known to lure men into the water, drown, and devour them. These are otters that turn into people, so it's one of those reverse creatures, much like the Alaskan, much like the Kushtaka in a way.
Yeah, that freaks me out more than people turning into animals for some reason.
Yeah. There's the reverse one. The were hyena is the one I always think of, but there's a group of ones that go the other way, and it gets creepier. But of note, Brad Steiger states the Japanese perceive the otter as more dangerous and at times capable of greater violence, so they are more in league with the sisserers than most Native American traditions, where it is formidable but usually outside of Alaska associated with medicine. So the otter in general, North America, maybe it's a little darker in Japan, but for some reason in this area of Alaska, it gets very dark.
Alaska
across
gets
the
really
land
dark.
Bridge. Yeah, for days on end, 30 days a night.
Get up near the Arctic, and that's
right.
Dark a lot of the time.
Land of the midnight sun. Roland was a warrior. But let's head to Ireland for a nice pint of Guinness and a not-so-pint-sized otter. There's the Dómharú. It's a sea otter that visits the island to feed on human flesh.
Oh, no.
The Dómharú, spelled Dobharchu, is a creature seen predominantly on the Orkney Islands and is considered the otter hound of Ireland. This is not limited to an old Irish myth because it's still seen today. I found like a YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, I found like a little YouTube thing on this. One account, a woman was late getting back with the laundry when her husband, this is an older story, when her husband went looking for her, he found what was left of her by the shoreline with a man-sized otter munching away on her remains.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I know we all hate laundromats, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, But there was a married couple also spotted this thing near the shoreline and described it as being about the size of a man. That last account is fairly recent. The other one was fairly, there's not a ton of these, but there's definitely some.
Right, but we discussed that there are actual otters that we know of that are the size of a man. Could they just think that, or is it more man than that? It's more upright? It's like,
yeah, we talked about the chindi, things that stand on their hind legs. Is it a spirit? Is it just, otters can stand on their hind legs before they jump in the water.
Yeah.
But something 5 foot tall, at least, standing on their hind legs
is scary.
And what if she had a heart attack
not necessarily
and then that
paranormal
thing found her and it was just eating her?
Right.
But the way he describes it is these things, watching this little documentary, they're describing something much bigger than is normally seen, much more monstrous, much more dangerous.
Okay.
So, and there are more than one sighting. So we're not doing an episode on that today. I'm just saying it's out there. Mm-hmm. This wasn't a Moz deep dive. This was I'm just also saying there's these other otters out there.
Wow. Okay.
If we find enough information on that, we'll do one on the Dómharú.
Because in Ireland's not at all Arctic. It's north, but that would be farther south than these other places we're talking about, right?
Yes. I clearly, it would be a little on the south side. It's not that far.
Not too far out.
Not
Well, if they're making it down to Washington.
Yeah.
Washington
Not
State.
But we're talking about land otters in Alaska, and these are sea otters. And there are some latitude differences.
Oh, right. Land and sea otters are definitely different, too. Okay, right.
Yeah. But I think it's like really, it could be the next, if Simon Pegg's listening, I think that could be like the next movie he makes, because it seems like it would be the next movie he would make.
Well,
about
he
a
just
giant
did.
Otter
He just did the
attacking while he's trying to drink a beer.
The Nandor Fodor and the Invisible Otter.
Wow.
Is Simon Pegg's new movie.
Wow.
And totally ties into my next episode.
Why am I out of the loop on this?
Is it an otter? It was some kind of creature like that. I'm gonna have to old business that. It was something.
So
it might not actually be an otter, but it's some kind of invisible animal.
But Nandor Fodor, I mean, he did. I mean, we're talking about one of the greats. So, but he didn't spend a ton of time with otters. So
no, it's a certain case. It was a farm or something that was haunted by an invisible entity, but it was an animal, not a person. But it still talked to people and stuff. I want to say it was an otter. I couldn't. Now, the more I think about it, the more I might be wrong on that. But
okay, I don't doubt you're wrong, but at the same time, I could be right, and that would be a real leap.
You're always right, Maz.
Well, I mean, I thought it would be a good Simon Pegg movie, and here we are. So.
Well, it'd be a good transition, otter to otter thing.
Yeah, I love it. I mean,
he's already played Nandor Fodor. He should totally start doing paranormal movies.
Exactly. Here's another otter creature. We'll move along here. It drowns its victims and devours them. The Nguruvilu, Nguruvilu. The Mapuche tribe in Chile report a fox snake that drowns people by creating a whirlpool, dragging them into the depths. Why do I mention this? Two reasons. One is whirlpool again, which we've talked about. And two, there's a scully muggle that actually thinks that the biggest thing that this could be is that they're actually seeing an otter. So here's Lehman Nietzsche, a researcher, after sifting through the evidence, also concluded that the fox snake is the Lutra felina, known as chungungo, or the Chilean sea cat, a sea otter. And I have the fox snake water creature reference for that in the show notes. So we got another one. Surprise, surprise. Chile version also closely linked to the local shaman that will drown and kill you.
Of course. Why wouldn't it be?
Why not?
So now we're in South America, so these really are all over the place.
Yep. And you have the next reading about the Nguruvilu.
Nguruvilu. Oh, excuse me. The only way to get rid of a Nguruvilu is through the offices of a machi, or shaman, or a good kalku, or sorcerer. The kalku is to be offered gifts in return for the service of Nguruvilu removal. The kalku, who may be male or female, wades through the river until he or she reaches the whirlpool and then dives in. Afterwards, she swims to the surface, having captured the Nguruvilu in her arms with her powerful magical abilities. She then proceeds to threaten the creature with a long, sharp knife, saying she will mutilate it if it ever harms another person trying to cross the waterway. The kalku then releases the Nguruvilu back into the water.
So a fox snake might be a stretch for an otter. It's certainly not what the locals were describing, but there are scientists who think that's what they might be seeing. So it's mentioned on this list. So there you go. That's and here's a fun fact, because South America, we were just talking about another otter in South America. Here's a weird parallel. The giant otter is considered the shaman of the waters. It's responsible for the regulation and health of aquatic environments. That from Pimenta, 2016.
I did notice there that they found this thing harrying the waterway in a whirlpool.
There you go.
In a whirlpool.
That's what they do.
If you've been listening, that comes up a lot.
Yep. I'm still trying to bring the shamanism arc home by looking for the proto-shaman and therefore the proto-monsters of this whole circumpolar network of spooks. Focused on a boat so last time as our Scooby-Doo Mr. Jenkin Perkins, but the Tlingit have a great shaman that survived the land of the otters. He bested the pesty Kushtaka and made them his yek.
Oh, good for him.
We're going to get to that, yeah.
He actually made a yek from a Kushtaka. He got yeked up with a Kushtaka?
Well, that's just it. If you head south and east across Canada, we said that was the main medicine creature. Like, this is the main healing medicine creature.
Right.
It's only in this one area. I mean, we found a whole roll call of otter monsters, but at least this area of North America that it gets kind of dark.
That's where the bad ones go.
That's where the bad ones go. We got another shaman in Kushtaka from North Coast Tales of the Supernatural. This from Mary Gerardo Beck. And if you could read this one.
Oh, it's sneaking up on me there. Land otters were fearful hybrid beings of the spirit world. Able to live on land and in water, they had the special mission of saving persons lost at sea or in the woods, and transforming them into Kushtakas, creatures similar to themselves but who retained some human qualities. Land otters and Kushtakas were suspected of kidnapping or actively luring people to their kingdom. The shaman mediated between the spirit world and the human realm. The shaman's extraordinary powers made him the proper adversary for the Kushtaka, and the shaman was often called upon to struggle with the Kushtakas for a person's spirit. Oh, I just figured something out. So the shaman is the go-between between the human and the spirit, like the spirit is the go-between between the human and the gods.
Yeah, I'm gonna break this down for us in one of these episodes coming up, where it's preternatural, supernatural, and I kind of get them into their buckets again. So,
yeah, that's cool. That just kind of clicked in my brain when I read that.
Yeah, I mean, again, we get this shamanic guy being the answer, or gal being the answer, time and time again, and they're so closely linked to the monster themselves. Are they the monster? Are they summoning the monster? Are they stopping the monster? Are they, if it's a Tupilak, they're the one sending the monster. If it's another one trying to defend the area, it gets really murky.
Yeah.
And whirlpooly, and it'll drag you to your death. So,
yikes. Good
for them. But as we said, the otter is a potent totem for some tribes across Canada. It's even the key critter for the shamanic process. Tlingit believe these otters were once human. Maybe they started with humans who were shamans. Back to that Barazzuol thesis. Tlingit shamans owned many spirits, but one that was common to all, indeed was a prerequisite to becoming a shaman, was the land otter spirit.
Ooh.
Go for it.
What if that's the difference? What if when they come after you, they sense your energy, and if you have a shamanic sort of energy to you, they turn you into one of them. If not, they just eat you.
Yeah.
What if that's the difference?
Right, but one of the shamans we talked about actually escaped, so it was too powerful. And so
because he already had control of his power, maybe. Because like if you're a shaman and you don't know it, and these guys get a hold of you, they're like, "Oh, we're going to use his power for us."
Yeah, and then he actually upped the ante a little bit and
turned
the tables a little bit, and we'll get to that. I think it's in our side trailer. It's today. We'll get to it. I think
that's my new theory.
I always have 1,000 pages to go through. I don't know where they are. They'll be somewhere.
It's in there somewhere.
But so the Tlingit, too, felt they were key to shamanism, yet these things became monsters as their pool of eligible shamans dwindled. I got one more reading for you. Kidding. I have a lot more reading for you. But this is from Ian Anderson account that I found on Crazy Coyote.
Otters move easily in both the great realms of life, land, and they even enter the underworld. They live in burrows. Moreover, they play a lot, and even incorporate humans into their play. Most daunting of all, they often try to lure people into the water to play with them, as I have personally experienced on several occasions. Significantly, otters abound in shamanic art, charms and the like, but are largely absent from public art, totem poles and crest art, though a few appear on Gitxsan poles. Barbeau recorded a shaman's otter song for curing. Among the Smishian, the Bukwas, or wild man, took the place of the otter to some extent. In Kwakwaka Waku tradition, Kwakwaka Waku?
Kwakwaka doohickey WAKW.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I do to you. I make you read this stuff. But again, they share the same characteristics as shamans, always between and something monstrous. The healing tradition also morphs into this community of wild men, and then somehow an entire community of Kushtakas are terrorizing the region. Good shaman going bad. Yeah.
And that's how we get sisters.
That's right. But the Tlingit believed this land of the Otter people was somewhere nearby, or at least the entry portal to their underworld community was close. And I wanted to just talk a little bit more about the Tlingit. That is the central group that deals with this stuff. Again, the main Kushtaka folklore comes from the Tlingit's mission in Haida, all in the same Alaska neighborhood, but Kushtaka Ground Zero is reserved for the Tlingit tribe. The Tlingit were primarily a matriarchal fishing and hunting community who believed in both reincarnation and this Therian phasic ability of these creatures to shift between man and otter, or anywhere in between the two. The Tlingit, like many Arctic and subarctic tribes, or sub-subarctic is probably more accurate, have a lot of rules surrounding the preparation of food, who can hunt the food, who can eat the food. We talked about that before. Any mistakes in preparation, or who eats what, could offend the spirits, and only a shaman could restore the balance. It's like an Arctic HOA kind of thing. We have seen this before with the Inuit and beyond. The Tlingit have three primary totems: the wolf, the eagle, and the raven. The otter is not among them, so it seems again some adversarial dynamic may have surfaced between this tribe and this beastie. I don't know this. I'm just saying this, and if I'm wrong, please contact us. We're not trying to do any disservice to these tribes, but there's no otter primary totems, and it seems like they're having a problem with the otter population.
Well, what if the otter is an enemy spirit? You know what I mean? Like the raven, the eagle, and what did you say?
The wolf, the eagle, and the raven. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all, harmonized with the human, so we're able to communicate with them quite often. I mean, just go out and start hanging out with a family of ravens. You'll find out you're going to make friends with them. What if the otter just is not in that realm? Like, what if it's more like an enemy spirit rather than a kindred spirit?
Well, it only seems to be in this area. It's the medicinal guru everywhere else. You cannot be a shaman in some other tribes without that yak.
Oh.
All the Algonquin, there's a huge swath of the region.
I see.
That
so
the whole the Medawayan society is based on the otter as the key yak medicine. Where did it go wrong for the Tlingit?
Right.
I don't know. Just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Very interesting question, actually.
But the Tlingit believed the otter was actually smarter than humans and spiritually superior, so they were truly liminal beings again. And that's, again, some of those insights from that Barazzuol thesis. This from Ronald L. Olson, Tlingit Shamanism and Sorcery. Although shamanism is a thing of the past among the Tlingit, it is quite otherwise with sorcery, has proved as durable a trait as in our own society. As recently as 1956, one of the Tlingit towns was in an uproar for weeks over charges and countercharges of black magic. So the shamanism piece is faltering, is fading, is disappearing. The sisters, these dark otter creatures, emerge from the void kind of thing. The Tlingit ixt, or shaman, were in constant fear of being attacked by yek, an animal spirit, or some rogue critter, dark energy, or rogue sister. They were also worried about other shamans who were very territorial. So the ixt, the shamans of the Tlingit, had a lot to worry about. It doesn't seem like they fared very well over the years.
Yeah, very adversarial nature to their culture there.
Yeah, and they now live next to a community of otter people who are trying to also.
Yeah, and that's not good when they're the enemy.
Doesn't help.
Hatfield and McCoy's kind of stuff going on there.
There you go. To drive the point home, the otter, the most powerful yak, somehow becomes a key part of the monster mythos. Surprise, surprise. We talked about a common belief among shamanistic tribes that after they allotted 4 sacred cycles, the shaman could choose to move to another plane of reality or hang around this one as the embodiment of their totem spirit. The Tlingit have a variation of this with the otter. Here's another similar theme. We already covered some of these epic shaman pissing contests, and after the death of a yek, the familiar, it would guard the grave of the ixt, the shaman. This is our graveyard grim, the guardian pups. It's so prevalent globally. It's kind of the same thing, and we're going to get to that in other stuff. Or the otter bluto of our MLT community.
There you go.
But among the Henva Tlingit, Shaman burial occurred outside the village proper, within sight lines oriented to regions where enemies might appear. Stephen J. Langdon, kind of this YouTube piece I found, this might also explain ley lines which follow lines out of the villages. Planting a shaman is like sticking another Duracell battery into your shamanic shields. And that's going to become, put a pin in that, you know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's going to come out. It's like a scarecrow, you know. That's Kushtaka country for you. And some of the commonality of stories, again, the Kushtaka have their own higher-pitched whistle to communicate. We've heard that whistling before. We've heard a lot of whistling.
Whistling's a thing in this world.
Why does this whistle theme keep surfacing? I mean, go back to my first little spreadsheet I created. Whistling was on there. A lot of these creatures like to keep whistling.
Because everything is vibration.
Yeah, and a whistle, songs and whistles.
I can whistle and hum at the same time.
Yeah.
I bet I can open some magical locks if I learn how to use it right.
I bet you can rub your belly and also pat your head at the same time.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Totally. Watch.
No, don't do it. This is going to make me... How do you do that?
I can
Stop
do it both
it.
ways, too.
Oh, stop it. Just stop it. Now you're just
Either way,
showing off.
ambidextrous.
You know, you could be not
See?
doing
See?
it. He's not really doing it.
Oh, I did it like
No,
3
but
times.
They
Changing
can't
hands.
see, but they can't see. So it's my word against yours now. Now he was doing it. He's a jerk. But anyway.
Don't make me go to YouTube, Moz. I really don't want to go to YouTube, Moz.
No. But we have 3 highlight stories on the Kushtaka today, 2 from way back when, and 1 more recent account. The old one is 1909, J.R. Swan's Tlingit text, which I found on Internet Archives. Can't believe that Tlingit had texting capabilities in 1908, though. That's pretty impressive.
Ooh, yeah.
Seriously, this was a key...
They were bouncing the signal off the Dark Knight satellite.
Oh, had to get that tie-in. But the first is this story of the sister who brought food from the land of the otters. This is paraphrased. I'm just going to we can't go through all these. But so basically this man is on a canoe trip with his family. The canoe springs a leak. While this is happening, he starts reminiscing about his missing sister who disappeared years earlier. Thinks about her while he's paddling along and probably sinking. She mysteriously wanders out of the woods. A not sister, yeah.
Yeah.
She directs him to his town where he and his family might rest and get the canoe fixed. There's no banjo music, so you can feel safe. As they spend some time in this place, one of the children sprouts a tale, which was their cue to vamoose. The family is eventually permitted to leave the land of the otters, and they get back in their canoe and paddle off. The sister is already a full-blown otter citizen, so she's not heading back to the old homestead. It sounds a little weird and like an uncomfortable visit. So you're an otter now, huh? What's that like?
But they let them go.
Yes. Because the sister...
Because the sister was their protector.
Yeah, it was kind of like, you can come here, fix your canoe, and go. But there was some stipulations. If you visit the land of the otter people where the family sojourn, the transition from human otter is supposed to be a slow process. So one of the kids starts to turn into an otter, but they were able to get out of there and return back to human.
That did not end the way I expected. I was so
Most
nervous.
Most of them don't end that way. But according to Swanton, these folks in transitions were called Gagixit, Gagixit. Jeremy, you may Mars attacks that word if you need to.
Gagixit!
Yeah.
Gagixit!
Kind of knew you were going to do that whether I asked or not. Which means ray gun, by the way. How did the Haida also have ray guns and texting? I have no idea.
Excuse me.
Oh, that's awesome. Here's what the little Mars attacks for you. It never hurts. It could hurt, actually. If you watch
it hurts
the movie.
the throat if you do it too much. It does hurt if you do it too much.
That's what I was talking about, but that too. Here's what this guy learns down in Otter, Mongolia. Rule 1, as the hero of this tale paddles away, he must not look back, which is a basic underworld Orphic trope, right?
Oh, that goes way back. There's the Greek mythology and stuff has things like that.
A lot of them do, yeah. With and Lot's wife turned to salt. Persephone turns back.
That's in everything. If you look back,
well,
you're
no,
done.
it was Orpheus's wife, yeah. So, but basically...
Right.
You've got, this is one group that doesn't look back. That's why they got to leave. They
Good for
actually
them.
listened, which doesn't seem to happen. Everyone at the last minute.
See, this is why I only look to the future, Maz. Only to the future.
There you go. There's even a coyote story from Native American where the coyote loses his love and, the trickster kind of goes back and goes to the underworld and looks back at the last minute. And again, it's the same story. Rule 2, what happens in Otter Club stays in Otter Club. They're told never to speak of this. In fact, years later, the kid who'd almost turned into an otter, who grew a tail, just thinks about this and suddenly is whisked back there for a moment.
Oh, no way.
Swanton, Jr., 1909, Tlingit Myths and Text, available at sacredtext.com.
So this is where that whole manipulating time and space thing comes in.
Well,
they can actually just yank you back to where they're at.
Well, it reminded me of Castaneda, like the assemblage point is permanently altered, so you're kind of in tune with it enough that, so if he really started to talk about it with people, he probably would have ended up, at least those myths go that way. And if you break the agreement, you end up back in Otter County.
Yeah, you're back in the trap. Yeah.
Another main story associated with the Kushtaka legend comes from Harry D. Culp in This Strangest Story Ever Told. You might have heard this one if you're familiar with the Kushtaka. What is interesting about this story from the Thomas Bay area is how this place was known as the Bay of Death to the Tlingit. In 1750, a landslide is believed to have killed about 500 villagers.
Yikes.
So Bigfoot throws rocks. Kushtaka apparently throws mountains.
500 people is a lot when you live in a small a not very large population.
Well, they always blame things on misfortune on the same things we're talking about. So some blame the shaman on duty who broke his pact with the Kushtaka. It's one of the theories about why that whole thing happened. At least that's what I found back in the day.
That'll do it.
But here's a thought experiment here. But is this the moment when a shaman so offended the otters that they permanently divorced? No longer a totem option, and now a newfound enemy. Remember, for other tribes like the Ojibwa, the otter remains that sacred yak. And here we have this falling out and then falling mountain.
There would have to be some reason, right? And that would make sense. You anger them enough that they just never want anything to do with you again. So you're not allowed that connection anymore.
If anyone has any thoughts on this from that area, this is just us two guys talking, and we could be way off base on this one. So let us know.
Like how my exes all treat me.
There you
go.
No,
I'm just kidding.
No, he's not.
I'm a nice guy. But no, they don't like me anymore after that.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes. But just for punishment for that, now you have to read, Jeremy, part 6. Here's Charlie the Prospector's account as relayed by the aforementioned Harry Culp.
Swarming up the ridge toward me from the lake were the most hideous creatures. I couldn't call them anything but devils, as they were neither men nor monkeys, yet looked like both. They were entirely sexless, their bodies covered with long, coarse hair, except where the scabs and running sores had replaced it. Each one seemed to be reaching out for me and striving to be the first to get me. The air was full of their cries, and the stench from their sores and bodies made me faint. I forgot my broken gun and tried to use it on the first ones. Then I threw it at them and turned and ran. God, how I did run. I could feel their hot breath on my back. Their long, claw-like fingers scraped my back. The smell from their steaming, stinking bodies was making me sick, while the noises they made, yelling, screaming, and breathing, drove me mad.
Nice.
As angry prospector.
Angry beaver. So we have Bigfoot versus Kushtaka overlap. We've got this, they're neither men nor monkeys, right? Got the rank smell, which is more Bigfoot.
And the open wounds, running sores.
The scabs don't fit anywhere that I could see anywhere else. What creature is all of them have these open wounds? It seems like an anomaly to me.
It did somewhere earlier. It said zombie-like creature when they turn you into the otter. That's very zombie-like to me, like wounds that don't heal kind of thing.
There you go. Maybe you saw that one. I could not. But they drive you mad like the Kushtaka. So that is kind of, they have claws, they said, which could be Bigfoot, but also sound more like Kushtaka.
Otter's got some serious claws.
Exactly. So basically that's one of those stories that you don't know what's chasing them. It sounds squatchy, sounds Kushtaka-y, sounds a little scabby, you know.
Yeah, the stinky scabby part really, excuse me, my throat. the stinky scabby part actually is really creepy.
Yeah. And again, that's a common one. You might have heard of that one. We're going to hopefully get to some that maybe you have not heard yet. You got a couple more readings, and then you're almost done for the day.
Yay. Encounter with a Kushtaka in southeast Alaska. Okay, so this happened to my wife a couple years ago. We live in southeast Alaska, where there is a creature that is known to roam the forest called a Kushtaka, or Ottermen. They're similar to the Bigfoot of the Pacific Northwest, but legend has it that if you encounter one, it will shapeshift into someone you know and try to lure you into its lair. My wife was running down a trail with our 2 dogs in a local park. Our dog suddenly stopped in the trail and started growling at something off in the woods, like really snarling. Our dogs are well behaved. She walked forward, looking into the woods, trying to see what they were barking at. She rounded a corner, and there was a man standing about 40 feet off the trail. She had never seen this man in her life. He was dressed as if he was homeless. His hair was long and dirty. His face was hidden by mats of hair. This man knelt down behind a log. In self-defense, my wife pulled a knife out because she had lost sight of him and didn't know where he was. Suddenly, out flew a bald eagle from where this man had just been standing. As soon as the man and eagle had disappeared, our dogs were completely fine. They returned to their normal, happy selves. We spent the next couple weeks researching Otterman and trying to understand more about it. We talked to some local Tlingit elders about the experience, and their interpretation of what happened is that the Otterman was trying to teach my wife some kind of lesson. To this day, we have no idea what that lesson could have been.
So why is this a Kushtaka tale? What do you think? Because it doesn't ring of one in some ways.
Well, it's that transformational part. It sounds like an otter trying to look like a man, but then it turned into an eagle. And with that whole, shamanic yak thing, I can see why they would at least construe this with the Kushtaka legend.
Well, they construe it because they went to the elders, and the elders were immediately thinking Kushtaka. In some ways, I think it's because you're kind of shoveling things into the local Volcadank, and this is the thing that might do that. But there was a piece that they said it actually lured, it could change into a loved one, which I think we talked about earlier, and I was actually wrong where I wasn't sure they did that. And,
right.
And it seems like they all do the same things, but
they got all the same tricks up their sleeves.
They all have the same tricks up their sleeves. When these folks went seeking answers, because the elders said that, it has that shamanic component of shape-shifting into a bird. It has
the luring, the dysmorphic thing, the suddenly it's something else thing. It's freaking out the dogs. It's got all of it right there, man.
Yeah, and it was very hard to find some of these Bigfoot type sightings. I think they just become Bigfoot type sightings. We'll talk about that when we get to theories a little bit. We got one more for you to read from Swan, who also recounts this one really interesting tale.
4 men went hunting by canoe one autumn to a place called Wadasaks, where they encamped. By and by, one of the party found a big land otter. He took the bough of a tree, twisted it around the land otter's neck, and carried it home. He did not know what it was. As he dragged it home, it went bouncing along behind him, and at every bounce, something whistled behind him. Arriving at camp, he began to skin it. Then he said to his brothers, "Go and get your pot ready to cook it." But when they began to cut up and put it in, something whistled. "That is just what I heard on the way," he said. After the pot had boiled, they had begun to eat. Something began to whistle in the tree nearby and threw a rock down. They threw one back, and soon rocks were flying back and forth. It was a great thing to fool with. By and by, the men said, "You might cut our faces." So instead of throwing rocks, they seized long pine cones and threw these back and forth all night. Towards morning, the being in the tree, which was a land otter man, began to hit people, and they, on their part, had become very tired. Finally, they tried to get him down by lighting a fire under the tree where he was sitting. When it was burning well, all suddenly shouted, and he fell into it. Then they threw the fire over him, and he burned up. But when they started for the beach to go home, all wriggled from side to side and acted as if they were crazy. And when anyone went to that place afterward, he would act in the same manner.
Did really well with a 1905 version of High Texts and Myths from Swanton, and I think it's a tough read.
Ooh, that was definitely an old style of writing with a lot of typos in it.
But did you get the gist of what's happening here?
I did. It was playing a game with them, and it was almost like it was trying to tire him out, but then they got the best of it. But then when they burned it, it's like its spirit got into him and made him all crazy.
They decided to just burn the dang tree down, but then they're saying that everyone who went back to that, everyone went crazy who did that, and then everyone who went back to that same area, even years later, went crazy who went to that same area.
Well, they released the energy of the thing into the area, and now the area has the energy instead of the thing.
Yeah.
They actually made it more dangerous, I think.
Yep. And again, that's where some of this theory of it disorienting and making people crazy comes from. It just has so many elements of what we see that's kind of filtered down to the lore today, basically.
Right.
So, best defense for this thing: bullets, even silver ones, won't work. They say to try copper, urine, fire, dogs. They hate dogs, or bones of dogs. I suppose dog urine from Bones' house might be extra potent. just a guess.
Oh,
but yeah, that's some of the things that
Bones dogs pee.
Yeah, would probably.
That sounds like it would cover a lot of bases. So is it as simple as just the old school mark your territory with your pee then?
No, I mean they're saying it's more of a copper thing than a silver thing, but also they don't like dogs, so they don't like dog urine probably more.
Right.
They don't like fire. Obviously, that comes from this tale that we just read.
Fire works, but it releases the spirit, so you better get the hell out of there.
It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they lingered, and they should have ran after they did that.
Right, like as soon as it fell in the fire, they should have just skedaddled, but they stuck around.
Exactly. And here's from Demon Hunter's Compendium again. We heard from them already. Here's wrapping up the best defense. There are two other methods that may work against the Kushtaka: decapitation and fire. A steel blade, and we mentioned the fire part, but a steel blade should be used for this. Copper makes for poor cutting weapons, and while not everyone can afford or knows how to use a sword, a machete is a great alternative. That is, assuming one is able to get close enough to the Otterman to do the deed without being torn to pieces in the process. If the creature is dead, its bodily remains should be burned to cinders immediately to prevent the creature from possibly regenerating and taking revenge upon its would-be killers. Now, that goes against, there is a bit of a, contradiction here, because they're saying burn it. I don't know, burning it didn't work so well in the Swanton tale.
Well, I mean, technically it worked because it killed the thing, but
yeah,
there was a price to pay.
There was a price to pay. They went, everyone around there went mad, and everyone went mad for a long time. And I think that's one of those things we're going to come back to. One of the Kushtaka gurus, Dennis Waller, definitely makes this shamanic connection, and in his search for the Kushtaka, he is hailed as kind of the Kushtaka expert. So there's kind of more to come. If I get a hold of some books of him, we may have to circle back to this again. But Waller delves deeply. This is from 5 of the most dangerous and monstrous humanoids out there, so beware. Journal News, again in the show notes. Waller delves deeply into the domain of string theory, quantum physics, and multiple dimensions. In other words, ancient legends may have been born out of a science that to a significant degree still very much eludes us to this day. It's also a science that spills over into the realms of shamanic activity, altered states of mind, the afterlife, and the creatures that feed on human life energy.
You have this book?
No, I'm saying if I get a hold of this, we're going to actually have to recircle back and do more, because that just ties in everything we've been talking about.
I really want to read that. I'll look that up later.
And I came across him at first in a Redfern book. Nick Redfern discusses Waller, and it seems like something we need to eventually be quantuming out on at some point. Let's just treat the guy and make him give us an interview, or we'll Kushtaka his ass,
One of us. One of us. One of us.
But this seems to be potentially to get to the heart of kind of all this stuff. But I do want to talk about the land bridge real quickly, because there are the creature feature people who, real monster, real thing, trying to go across the land bridge. And we need to bring it back to our roots once in a while, because we've gotten so far into Quantumville. I got to reel it in and actually talk about a thing that went from across the land bridge at some point.
Yeah.
The Arctic regions hatched these spooky tales, and again, an Arctic circumpolar group seemed to have shared a common heritage, or at least swapped spooky stories. For our Arctic shapeshift episodes, there's a similarity in the cosmology and the shamanic folklore, from Mongolia to Siberia to Iceland to Greenland, Scandinavia, Japan, etc. But could some of these stories of shapeshifting shaman be true? And could a shamanic created creature have followed these nomadic peoples over the land bridge to Canada? I found this from soldomedianochanews.org. Kushtaka is believed to have arrived in America from Asia, where the Yeti allegedly lives, in Nepal. It crossed the Bering Strait in the last ice age like the ancestors of Native American peoples and certain animal species. Some of these primates settled in Alaska. Others went down to what is now California and Oregon. They have also been seen in Arkansas and in the East Coast, Florida, Louisiana, and North Carolina as Bigfoot. They are kind of tying it into Bigfoot, but they're saying there's a Kushtaka component to that. Came over the land bridge. So we mentioned... Go ahead.
Is this like the original cryptid that came over here?
I have a theory as to what the otter piece of this is.
Okay.
So we'll get to it.
Okay. Is that the Ahu Guano or something?
I don't know. So we can't tease our Ahu Guano from our real theories.
I'm sorry.
Because we'll actually talk about this sometimes, like this Ahu Guano, I've got to move into theory because it makes too much sense. Yeah. And other ones, like, that's just batshit, has to stay there.
Some of them, it's like, wow, that's actually maybe the best sense. Theory we came up with.
Yeah. At least the night before.
Yeah.
But we mentioned before the etymological connection between the Dene of central Siberia and the Dene of our area in the southwestern United States. Just a hypothesis, but there are some language similarities, and we talked about that. I recommend Edward Vajda's The Tlingit and the Dene-Yanetian Hypothesis. Check that out on YouTube. It'll be in the show notes. But remember, we found possible otter monsters along the way, and I want to kind of connect these a little bit. We have the Japanese and Ainu. We have the Kawaso again, trickster, shapeshifter, mimic, therianthrope. In Japan, they are more trickstery, but these stories can get darker when they lure men to their demise. We have otters in Siberia. We do find shamans wearing otter skins, the Yupik. Eastern Kamchatka and Western Alaska, they have powerful otter spirits called Inua, I-N-U-A. So I wasn't able to find where they're wearing the otter skins and they're actually being, kind of shapeshiftery, but that does seem to be, again, in Siberia, this powerful Yek-like creature, this familiar.
And just language-wise, I don't know how it really correlates, but Inua is very close to Inuit, which is what the people up there call themselves, right?
Yeah, so you got the Inuit there, and that's they kind of are in Siberia and all the way to Alaska and along the Aleutians. So they have this whole area, and it is, it's an etymological similarity. And we never know if these make sense or not. Someone has to comment and let us know if we're just rambling.
On the surface anyway, language-wise, it would appear that they feel some kind of familial connection in that.
Yeah.
Inua and Inuit.
No, I do the same thing, and I have more of those etymological connections, and we just throw them out there, and sometimes I'll do a deeper dive and try to find out if it really makes sense. If it doesn't, if you have some thoughts on that, please email us at
monsterloretour@gmail.com.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I also found the Altians, again from the Russian side, particularly the Kamdash, had the otters as their totemic animals, which they call Bayana. So we do find a group in that area that had an otter as their yak, helper spirits, but no stories of monstrous shapeshifters as of yet. But if you go to the otter in the Canada side, We have the Mi'kmaq, have a trickster otter spirit. Back to eastern Canada, the Great Lake regions of the Ojibwa, the Nova Scotia, Canada, the Mi'kmaq, which might sound familiar from your area of the woods there in Massachusetts.
Yeah, it does actually, yeah.
A more playful trickster type other reemerges as a shamanic society that worships the otter. More on them soon. But in Alaska, we have these tribes we're talking about today that have kind of a similar vibe going for this true otter monster that shows up. But in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon, there are tribes that regard beavers, not otters, as human beings. And they're kind of metamorphized from the Great Spirit. And you can be, again, through punishment or disobedience, you can be turned into one. And the most mythical theory of the origin of the Kushtaka-like being from the Pacific Northwest is my guano file. So don't play the bumper.
Oh.
Don't play the bumper, though.
Oh.
But I think there's a real... Well, maybe you
got me excited. I can't play the bumper?
Well, I think there's a Klingon-Tlingit connection here.
But don't play Klingon-Tlingit?
Yeah, I do. I think there is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you doing that right now?
Well, I don't play the... Did you play the bumper? I'm going to go back and listen to this. You better not play the bumper.
I'm going to play the bumper.
Don't.
Oh, no. Here it comes. Quick. To the batshit signal. Oh, there it is. I played the bumper.
That's not right. Well, maybe the Tlingit will thank you, because this is probably pretty batshitty. But there's just a similarity, and I'm not trying to poke fun. I'm just, I'm excited about this stuff, and I hope some of that shines through. But the Tlingit have a very complicated view of the soul. There's a multiple part thing going on, cosmology and astrologically. Most of the soul breakdown I found comes from that Barazzuol land otter complex thesis, if you get a hold of that. And that will be in the show notes. But the Tlingit are a group that have a very different breakdown between the outside world begins. We talked about this, and where the inside world begins. So the outside equals the skin and the muscles and the ligaments as part of the outside universe. Only the bones and the inner viscera are part of the actual person.
Right, like the flesh doesn't really count.
Which is why you can change skins, which is why we see all these shapeshifters, which is, again, allows for that ability to change, which is why they see them when they do change. Other people might not, because they have different belief systems.
Their flesh is like their clay. They can do anything they want with it.
Yes. Very common Tlingit and Haida lore. In Swanton's work, there's, in addition to otter people, many other therianthropes, from killer whale people, halibut people, which we'll learn about in the side trail. But the breakdown is not as odd as I originally thought. Because what do you think about when you think about this? It is actually kind of ties in with something we've been talking about. I'm putting you on the spot. I mean, if you don't answer, that's fine. But the shamanic initiation sometimes strips the initiate down to the bone and rebuilds the shaman. I thought this was so weird when I read it, but I'm like, wait, we've been reading about this the whole time.
Wow, that was so long ago that didn't even come to mind. But yeah, the shamanic trials where they literally tear you apart and put you back together.
Yes.
But yeah, it strips you down to the bone.
Yeah, so it isn't as different as I thought.
So it basically gives you new clay to work with around your actual being.
But going down to move to that next level of consciousness entails a tearing down to the bone and rebuilding.
Yeah, which now makes so much sense in a way, because if the flesh isn't actually part of the self and becomes, the clay that you work with as the shamanic artist, so to speak, then maybe they're like giving you better material to work with. They're upgrading your clay or something, maybe.
Well, to reel it in just for a minute, though, the Scully Muggles would say, well, after a shamanic initiation, the dude looks the same. Right?
He can look however he wants.
Right. Good point. Well done, sir.
He looks the same because that's how he wants you to see him.
No, well done. But yeah, it is a different view from that perspective, and it's an interesting one. But you got us in the mind for this whole etymological thing, so of course I went there. There's this whole shamanic ladder theme that shows up in Tlingit as far as the Guswall, Guswul, cloud hole, or entrance to the upper world. Very Klingon or Viking-like society astrologically, and that the best way to die is defending the homeland in battle, then having your relatives complete all the important rituals at your funeral to ensure getting to the cloud hole. You got to get through it. Ordinary peeps are eligible to keep reincarnating until they die. The righteous death plunging their batleth into several enemies. No, that's actually Klingon. I switched genres. But the Kushtaka gets involved, and they save someone from drowning, and then they're not permitted to ascend through the Gus Wall, this hole at the top of the ladder, to Kawa, or the realm of heroes, Valhalla to the Vikings, Strovokor to the Klingons. But this paradise is guarded by watchmen who keep beings from entering Strovokor. Can we just call it Strovokor? I know it's not called that. But
yeah, please.
Yeah, by now we'll do the Tlingits justice. It's the ladder is the Kawa, and the Gus Wall is the hole, but the realm is called Kawa. But according to the Barazzuol thesis, there's this battle going on between the dead relative and Moiety, Moiety, the outsider, those helping or hindering passage to the afterlife. This is muddled for the Tlingit, because they're not getting through the hole at the top of the sky. Those folks are doomed to float around, which is their hell. So witches and Sithers are often blocked from entering through the Gus Wall. According to Swanton, who you had trouble reading, but you got through it, if a man died unavenged or his death was not properly compensated for, or you mess up the funerary dinner, you can also be blocked from entering Kawa.
Just messing up the dinner?
Yeah, just messing up the dinner. It's like, I said I don't like anchovies.
I was with him on the rest of that, but just,
Yeah.
I mean, you know how easy it is to mess up a dinner?
Okay, but if you go back to the Inuit stuff where the rituals were so important, you can't eat this,
Yeah.
you can't eat your yak. What if they serve your yak for your funeral?
And
like,
if you
you killed my familiar. Good job, Bob. What did we talk about when we were drinking and then fishing out in the kayak,
Yikes.
Kayak,
Yeah.
yikes. Yeah, exactly. Kaiwa, yikes. But if I got anything wrong with the thesis, if I'm not doing justice to the Tlingit, please, again, let us know. But here's some
monsterloretour@gmail.com.
and here's some more fun with etymology, though. I promised it. To the Tlingit otter means Kawa, Kawaa, which is the sky realm we talked about. But it literally means the way up, the shamanic ladder. Again, this is in Alaska, the Tlingit homeworld, or the Klingon homeworld. But there's a tenuous connection to the Kawaso if you go across the land bridge to the Japanese otter shapeshifter. The Ainu word otter get this, it implies that which reaches up.
Kawa.
That's what otter means.
And the Kawaso.
The Kawaso is the trickster otter creature that usually is a woman who lures people in. But basically, the word otter in that region means that which reaches up.
Yeah.
So you've got this ladder reaching up. You've got this otter meaning Kawa, which is the sky realm. I mean, it's a weird connection to me.
Yeah, that's definitely a connection.
Etymologically, does it make sense? We don't know. We just read stuff.
Well, just the meanings are so similar. And
Maybe.
Yeah, that's, wow.
Yeah, that's stuff I found. So whether it makes sense or not, again, please let us know.
It's almost like the otter is a portal guardian.
Yeah, exactly. Guardian Therathropes in otter form. You just hit it right on the head. Or physical land bridge crossing, because we have things in Japan. They're passing some of this knowledge across when they came across the land bridge.
And they save people from drowning near the shore and things like that. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
And finally, one of the coolest things I found about this lore we have to touch on is the shaman's component. Can't get away from it. Keeps turning up like a bad Penny Dreadful, really. But there's a man who was saved from drowning by otters and lived amongst them, thus became an otter himself, fully transformed. Not just the kid who got the tail and was able to go back. Full otter, hanging out with them, had the power to return to his people and return to human form. A great shaman named Kaka, capital K, capital A, K-A, who escaped the clutches of the Ottermen. Here's Swanton again, 1908, recounts the tale. He captured by the land otters, but eventually the otters grew afraid of him and his emerging powers. The otters were afraid to kill him. They were afraid to let him go. In the end, a relative, currently an otter, helped him escape. He becomes Quaka, or Quokka, Qualka, a mighty sergeant. Shaman. I was thinking of Stripes. Remember Sergeant Holka? He was the big thumb of the MLT community. Remember?
I just want that RV.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we go to go into Russia. Yeah. Great idea. Jeremy has so many great ideas. But Kaka now Quokka is kind of a proto-shaman in his own right. An important shaman to the Tlingit. More about this in the side trail. We're actually going to go over the whole story of how he escapes. So stick around for that. But another Swanton tale covers, there's also this Quokka of the Haida. And I don't know if it's the same one. Qolke. Sounds like the same guy. But there's this tale. It doesn't translate well in English, though. There's even an exclamation point in the name, which is like a click, like click kong of the Western Kalahari, but it's like a clicking sound.
Yes.
Yeah. Kong. Western Kalahari have kind of the same thing going. But anyway, this other one is too long to read, and it comes not from the Tlingit, but from the nearby Haida Indians, and I found that still in Swanton. It starts off with him and his dog going out for firewood, gets back safe, and he's building a fire, kind of Jack London style, because it's cold out. Beyond his fire, he starts to hear people talking out in the woods, and he sees this inviting fire in the distance. He realizes this is not a good thing, and he's being lured out into the woods, as he knows many who wander off never return. This is, if you haven't guessed it, the land otter people. A woman calling his name shows up in the guise of his sister, sits by the fire. This is another not sister, but a not good not sister. Offers him food. He throws pieces into the fire, which causes all these wood ticks to flee, so he realizes, too, it's a trap, so he throws the food in the fire. He doesn't eat it. He ends up killing and skinning his... Oh, this is a part that's going to upset you.
No.
He ends up killing and skinning his dog.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. For reasons I don't fully understand, but Kushtaka's hate dogs, so maybe this is wearing the skin of the enemy, thus amplifying it. But as protection, and he then wears the skins, the woman keeps bringing him food, and he refuses to eat. But it's crazy what this guy goes through. There's a couple of brawls with these things. He, fends them off. But everything he does to stay alive over these, he's besieged at his campfire for, days. He wears the skin of his dog. He refuses to urinate anywhere but a box. There's a reason for that, too. Lets the visitors wash their hands in his urine. He keeps testing the food in the fire. He fasts the entire time and doesn't sleep for days, all while keeping constant vigil. And he's alone in the woods. This is just one dude besieged by otter people. But he survives it. They finally give up and they kind of wander off.
Washing their hands in the urine. So that's how you use the urine.
Yeah, so he's using the urine. This is where the best defense starts to piece together, where we find something, but then we find in the old lore why this worked.
You have to bathe yourself in your own urine to fend off the Ottermen.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
God, you really can't win with these guys.
No, I mean, the fact that this guy survived for 2 or 3 days,
Yeah, but they killed his dog, and then he wore the dog's skin?
Okay. He had to kill, I believe the way I read this, he had to kill his own dog and wear the skin.
Oh, he had to kill his own dog.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I said it would upset you.
I wouldn't do it.
No, I understand. I understand.
I would tell my dog to run, and I would take what was coming to me.
And again, these are hard to decipher, and if I gotten anything wrong, please let me know. I perused a lot of stuff for this, and it's not necessarily getting every detail, accurate, but did the best I could. So let me know if we got anything wrong. But again, that's the Haida, and that's the Quokka story to the Tlingit from Swanton. Anyone can clear that up more or less? No. But Quokka is a key figure and a key proto-shaman, and tied in with Raven as well. So I want to get back to this at some point. But we're going to get on the theory, and then we're going to get on to our segments, and we'll get through this.
Okay, let's go. Let's please move on from that.
There you go. But like the Navajo psychologist we learned about during the Skin
Walker
episode, this is real to them, so it's relevant, and the damage that ensues is real. A family member is lost or drowns. There's an existential dread that their soul is lost. It's a burden. The thought that they are part of an otter community isn't really comforting, though, because they lose their soul. Some dark mojo. Usually they create these myths so you feel better. Oh, like we talked about the Tula in Greenland. These things go off into the tundra, And they're just your relative spirits. They may be good, they may be bad, but they're just become these energies out in the wilds.
Right. It's just a straight transformational kind of thing.
This one is like they've lost their souls, so it's not a very comforting tale, which again, this whole area seems to be steeped in kind of these dark stories.
Yeah, in a way they're still alive, but do you really even want them to be at that point? Like that's not a good way to be alive.
Especially if you lose your soul. I mean, if it's about transforming into a familiar or a yak, that's positive. This one has a very negative connotation.
Yeah, turning into an otter in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad fate, but when it's a Borg-like thing like that, where it's you are one of us now, and they steal your soul, that's never good.
No, that doesn't seem.
I don't care what form they're giving you. That's not good.
Well, here's our Ahu Guano. This is the official Ahu Guano.
Oh, I get to play the bumper again?
No, you already played it once.
Ahu Guano Theory of the Week. Oh no, here it comes. Quick, to the batshit signal. I love that. I love it.
So not fair that you edit. I don't like this. I don't like this arrangement at all.
The funny part is I don't put that in till later, and Maz was still flinching in pain when I said I'm playing it.
Here's my first Ahu Guano theory, and it really doesn't deserve to be here. I don't think, the gorilla, whenever we found the gorilla in the 1950s, these stories are way before that. The Tlingit never saw a gorilla. They could just be seeing Sasquatch, and I really feel like if you saw Sasquatch, some of them have very ottery faces. Like if you ever see even the, what was that guy's name who came up with the ones? It's very controversial whether they're real or not. But if you really look at some of the Sasquatch faces, if you've never seen a gorilla, you're going with Otterman.
Yeah, if that's what you know.
If that's what you know. If you don't know a gorilla, where would you come up with that?
Well, this takes me back to episode 2. With the Gloucester sea serpent. Everyone knows it's Slinky. The accounts in that, how some people said, a head bigger than the largest dog head I've ever seen, a head almost as big as a horse's. Some people saying it was a snake-like head, some saying a tortoise-like head. When you really break it down, be objective about it, they're explaining the same thing. They're just putting it in their own terms, and from their own experience. The rich people who had horses said, oh, that head's almost as big as a horse. Right. The poor people who just knew the pack of wild dogs running around were like, wow, that's bigger than any dog head I've ever seen.
The dude with the pet turtle thought it was a turtle head.
Yeah, and like the guy who was on the ocean all the time said it looked like a turtle head. The guy who's on land all the time said it looked like a giant snake head. But when you look at that, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And so there you go. It's their reference is to the otter because that's, the thing that's around more. Whereas, for people where there's gorillas, that's their reference.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just describing the same thing in your own terms.
Yeah. So now, see, we have to take that one out. You have to unplay both Ahu Guano bumpers. We have to just change this whole thing.
Okay, I'll take them out right now.
You lie.
That's too late. They're already in there.
Lying to me. Dang. But they're still in the future, so they're really not there yet.
Well, every moment in time exists equally.
Wow. You're going to do that Heidegger shit or something.
It already happened, Maz. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Great.
I know it hasn't happened yet, but it already happened.
Nice. Here's my real Ahu Guano, and this is just my batshit theory of the week.
Oh, Ahu Guano theory of the week.
No, wait, you got that. You're doing it again.
Oh, no, here it comes. Quick, to the batshit signal. 3 times you let me play that, Maz? That's a record. That's a record.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, this one is my actual Ahu Guano batshit theory. Supposing 2 things we know cross the land bridge between Kamchatka region of Russia and Alaska, and they meet up en route. Back when there was one more land of ice in which you cross the bridge, Gigantopithecus is kind of, bumbling around. He decides, I'm going to head this way. There's a big chunk of land now, or ice, and I'm going to cross it. And a relative, the otter beaver, also made this journey. By the way, Gigantopithecus is the main suspect in the Bigfoot culprit, too. But this is these are big fellas. So we have the big one. We talked about that lion-sized otter crossing the land bridge and Gigantopithecus. Again, we talked about maybe the last crossing from Russia, Alaska was 1400 AD, but We know this bridge became crossable several times in the last 40,000 years. We also know shamans have been around at least that long. But for this round, Gigantopithecus is making his arduous journey east with his fam. So what if out there in the lonely, he's walking through the Aleutian Islands deep on the icy tundra, his primate crossing turns tragic. Well, his wife dies somewhere along this excursion. Maybe she leaves him for an Iraq. Details are lost to the fog of time.
Terrible.
And then, due to lack of food, he's forced to eat his kids again. So
Lions do that.
Yeah. Well, he's not a lion. He's Gigantopithecus.
Yeah.
So he's a gorilla.
I'm just saying there are creatures that do such things.
Yeah. So he's wandering along with a few other species. One day, this giant humanoid primate notices an otter in the distance, a large lion-sized otter. Can you play Barry White music for this? Can we do that? That's maybe a copyright thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just play it anyway. Just do it. You're doing what you want. Just play it. Thanks.
Okay.
So is it playing now? All right. So what if the Gigantopithecus loses his family? He's the only two out there crossing this land bridge is this lion-sized otter and Gigantopithecus. Maybe the Barry White music's playing, and we have an otter creature that comes.
When in Rome sort of situation.
There you go. I'm just saying. I am just saying. So that's my Ahuguano theory of the week.
So the otter man is actually the offspring of Bigfoot's granddaddy and a giant land otter.
Yeah, the Melaleuca, those old fossil otters,
Yeah.
those giant creatures.
Yeah, the lion-sized otter and the giant ape.
They can happen to you,
Huh.
It gets lonely in the tundra.
Yeah. I mean, desperate times, especially
So
when
for
it's cold
desperate,
outside,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Got to share some body heat.
So on the Scully Muggle side, and you can play your other bumper now for
Sir Richard Scully Muggle's Skeptics Review.
You're full of crap, and that's the nicest thing that I can say.
Well, I got one more reading for you for Scully Muggle's Skeptics Review.
This is from an ethnozoological study of land otters and people at Kitten Caboodle, Doll Island, Alaska. Land otters lived and live in some of the same places people did, in this case the Tlingit and Haida. Coastal land otters forage predominantly on marine prey from the intertidal zone, and subtidal waters are sometimes social animals that occur in sizable groups. At other times, a mother and her kits forage as a unit, and single adult otters forage on their own. Name land otter is apt because they are well adapted to walking and running on land, and they sleep in dens on land. The remains of Kitten Caboodle have directed attention to an animal person, the land otter, who played a special role in Tlingit society. Some behaviors of the land otter, particularly fishing and the accumulation of fish bones and shell, are similar to those of people. I suggest that Tlingit knowledge of these behaviors and awareness of land otter activity have contributed to Tlingit ideas about the capacity of land otters to transform into persons and vice versa.
Thank you, Jeremy. Now, Nick Redfern kind of notes also on a similar line here. The otter angle is a very intriguing one and is born out of the fact that otters are highly intelligent animals, that they have structured communities and even leadership, that they are occasional tool users, and that they even hold each other's hand. That from Nick Redfern, Shapeshifter, Morphing Monsters, and Changing Cryptids. Otters are more human-like than many other animals in the animal kingdom, or at least more human than many of us may have thought. This theory goes that otters have a lot of human characteristics, so Tlingits kind of ran with it. It's kind of the theory of the day.
That's very homocentric.
Yeah. Well, it's better running with scissors.
Maybe people are more otter than we thought, rather than otters being more people than we thought.
Well, much otter.
Yes.
We're much otter than most people.
Yes.
And now we have the Scully Mulder believability scale.
Ooh,
for
the Scully Mulder
Kushtaka.
believability scale.
Yep. They feel your methods, your theories are
Spooky? Do you think I'm spooky?
Wait, why am I Scully? And again, I struggle with the whole believability scale because what are we talking about? Shamanic energies, what they're experiencing there. There's not a ton of Kushtaka sightings.
Well, I mean, the straight up question is, are there or aren't there magic Ottermen, to put it most simply? Is that what we're asking now?
Yes.
I'm going to go 7, but I'm going to go look for these guys. I think I'd rather find these guys than anything else up there at this point.
They're
Next
probably
time I
the
go to
nastiest shapeshifter around in some ways. I think Redford says that somewhere.
Well, all I have to do is douse myself with my own urine, and I'll be fine. And if I'm alone in the woods, then
I'm not
why
letting you
can't
bring
I do that?
Junebug. I am not letting you bring Junebug on this one.
I don't think Alaska would let me bring Junebug on this one.
See, here's the thing. I believe that there's these dark energies out there. What they're morphing into, I think it's irrelevant as far as for this one. I don't even want to play because I don't know. There's stuff going on. There's stuff going on with us as humans experiencing things. Otter people, I think we're looking more probably at Sasquatch when there are physical things, and I think we're dealing with more shamanic energies when they're not.
So you actually think the Otterman myth is a spin-off of Sasquatch, that it's actually just a local rendition of Sasquatch?
It's hard to say.
But they're in the water, though. They're like, much more aquatic.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just a slight variation on that. But yeah. Or maybe it was, I like your theory of the giant ape and the giant otter.
Yeah.
Ending up in the enemy mine sort of situation.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
And finding themselves, a new sort of happiness.
Well, I just, reading these things, it was intriguing. It was a dark chapter. It's impressive. I love doing the research. I think it's more just about shamanic energies again, and I don't want to give an otter creature a number, but, I think that's where I'm at with it today.
Well, then we're going to land at a 7 for now. More to come after my next trip to Alaska, hopefully.
There you go.
Which will be a while. We might be talking season 3 by the time that all gets resolved.
And by the time he makes it back, and
if he makes it back.
I'll be staying here. I'll be at the bar, like, watching him.
Someone has to tell the tale, Maz. Someone has to live to tell the tale.
I'm glad you put me in that duty.
That is your job.
Like Laertes at the end of Hamlet. But here's the Wolfman Puck scale.
Ooh, Wolfman Puck's Cryptid Culinary Corner.
Your entree, sir. Oh, smells good.
Would it taste? Did you put that in between when I said that?
Sure, I will.
Yeah. Could you do that
Yes,
now?
I did.
No, you can't.
It's already been done, so yes, I did.
Oh, my God. I am making skillet creamy French mustard otter. Yeah. That's what
So we're just eating otter?
Yeah.
That's a very common sort of thing for a Wolfman.
But not the
Puck
way
segment.
I'm going to do it.
Oh, okay.
I got white wine, a kind of Pinot Grigio. We're going to do some Dijon mustard, a little heavy cream. I think it's going to be tasty. But I'm going to wait for it to be in otter form, obviously.
Well, obviously.
Yeah. But I'm going to pair it, this is the important part, with a Vermont beer, a copper ale from Otter Creek Brewing Company. Now, I had this shirt back in the day, so I know it exists, but I remember their brew pub being in Brattleboro, Vermont. This is going back into, like, Swanton, 1908 era. This is going back into the sacredtextarchive.com.
I haven't been to Brattleboro, Vermont in over 20 years.
Yeah, me neither. But there used to be, I think, Otter Creek Brewing Company. I believe I was there. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, yeah. That's a familiar. Yeah. There was definitely an Otter Creek Brewing.
When I look at it now, it just says it's in Middlebury, and it's just like a home brewing place. So if you have more on that and you can tell us what happened.
monsterloretour@gmail.com.
That's an important one. So, yeah.
I am going to have an ocean shore barbecue. I'm going to barbecue up that otter.
You did this already. You can't barbecue multiple creatures.
And I'm gonna do it pirate style. I'm gonna serve it with rum and seawater for the beverage. To add some saltiness, the flavor.
Oh, okay. I see. You're just going to sit out on the beach and just do what you got to do.
I'm going to do it Jack Sparrow style.
Okay.
In the style of Jack Sparrow.
Can I say it again? We both lost this round.
Yeah, that one kind of sucked, huh?
Yeah.
Your ingredient was boring, Moss. Just otter? Like, that's a regular meat. You could probably find that in a weird butcher shop somewhere.
I did with a French flair.
Ooh, should I eat some otter when I go up there? I wonder if I can find some otter to eat. Do people eat otter? I don't even know this.
Well,
Old business.
Well, of course they eat otter. I mean, the clampets. If you're familiar with that lore.
Well, I mean, we'll eat anything if we're desperate enough. But is it like something you'd find in a butcher shop in Alaska?
It's a rodent. I mean, Hassan, but like rabbits are good. It can't be taste that much different from a rabbit.
Right.
Which we'll be talking about, by the way, for Leap Day.
I hear ground kangaroo is actually really good. That's
a rodent.
A weird animal you might not think about eating. That's a giant rodent.
That's an R. Kangaroos are ROUS.
They're the real life ROUSs now.
I wonder if they do exist in the fire swamp.
Actually, no. I always forget what those things are called. Those actual giant rats.
Oh yeah,
over there.
The Chiboro, whatever the heck it is.
Yeah.
I come across them a lot. They are monstrous rats.
Yeah, they used them in the movie Ben.
I don't know Yeah, is that what they used?
Yeah.
Dang, that was the sequel to Willard. Was it? I think Willard was first.
Well, there's. Oh, see, you're doing the thing where you're forgetting the original because there's an old one, Ben, from like. I want to say the 70s.
You can't old me. What are you even talking about?
Wasn't or maybe I'm missing
I think
one.
Willard. Ben was with Clint Howard, and I think Willard was the original Rat Pied Piper-y kind of thing, and I think Ben was the sequel to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Crispin Glover remake?
Mm-mm.
It was really good, actually. He was perfect for that role. He's so weird.
Yeah, but they perfected it back in the day. Why would you need to do it again?
The original is really good. I would actually have to watch them both again to pick which one's my favorite.
I really only watch.
Have you
old
seen
movies.
the new one though? I'm not usually that into remakes, but have you seen the Crispin Glover one? It was really good.
I will watch it for you.
We'll have to watch them both and decide which one's better.
Yeah, I'm still gonna watch the 1982 The Thing. I'm almost there with my movie thing.
Wow. Maz is living in the 70s, everybody.
I'm not. It's okay. It's not that bad. It's almost that bad.
I think we're far enough off the rails to wrap this one up. Thank you very much once again there, Maz. Always very informative and horrifying and all those wonderful things we look forward to in the Monster Lore Tour. Before you go, if you haven't done so yet, hit those happy fun buttons on the platform you're on, like, follow, share, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. If you really like what we're doing here, then you can join our Patreon for just $1 a month and get early access to all our full episodes and side trails that go with them. And we're going to go do the side trail for this one right now, actually. So we will see you next week. Till then, have a good one, listener. Wada socks? Wada socks? I got some Wada socks. I wear them when I go in the river.
Hey, what are socks? Are they the things you wear in your feet?